What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Logic Bomb Podcast, episode 44. It has been a while, and so much has gone on since our last episode, and it's all my fault. I have to apologize. I had some medical stuff, surgery. I'm okay. Everything's okay. It was a procedure that I elected to do, and it gave me some black eyes and stuff, so I couldn't really be on camera for quite some time, and just now kind of getting to where I feel comfortable getting back on camera. So that's my fault. You can blame me for the long absence, but we're back on the grind now, and we have so much to discuss today. So yeah, first of all, Zeronic is has, you can see he's got a different backdrop there. What's going on with that?
Well, I relocated my studio a little bit. We ended up selling the apartment, and now I actually have an office, so I can close my door and I can do whatever I want. I can scream and be loud. It's so good. That's for anyone wondering why the audio sounds very roomy. I have some audio what do you call it? Absorption panel stuff to get done. So the audio is going to be a bit scuffed until that gets fixed.
Well, congrats on the move, man, and
Thanks.
more space and office, and yeah, so much more room for activities, right?
You know what? Just not having the PC in the living room. Oh,
Yeah.
it's a life changer.
Yeah, yeah, I'm very fortunate in that respect. My house, I've got plenty of space down in my basement, but
But it's your basement. That's a
yeah,
good thing.
yeah, it's a basement, but it's still plenty of room, so I can't complain too much there. So, since the last episode, we had the invite, we had
Yeah, that was
a
a
new
thing.
season reveal. We have, I think we're 1 week into the test server now, so I think we're going to start out in this episode. We're going to talk about the new season. The content that's in the new season, the stuff that was announced and that we've played in the test server a little bit. Then we'll talk about the test server, itself, and then there's some stuff in the test server that they're trying out there that's not necessarily coming to the game. And then we'll also talk about the invite a little bit here. So with that said, let's jump into it. North Star, I guess. What's your thoughts on North Star?
So all the quality of life changes are really nice. I'm all for them. So like bullet holes, for example, I use that all the time. I love using them. I don't really mind when I die to them, but if that gets changed, I'm completely fine with it. And I know that a lot of people would like to see them removed, so it's a good way of doing it, I think. I'm confused why they were in barricades and now they're not in barricades. I think there was some weird communication there. But we'll get into that on some of the other ones. Communication has been a little scuffed. Um, Honest opinion on the new operator, I don't have enough hours on it to like really say what I think, but a bit underwhelming.
I think she.
Um,
I feel the same way. Like off the gate, like normally whenever I get hands on for a new season earlier, like for the literally the last 3 years, I have made a video about the operator, and then I'll make a separate video on quality of life changes or something like that. I didn't make a video on Thunderbird because I was just like, there's no way I can make a video about this operator. Like, she's an
yeah.
operator, she's got a good gun, she's got and she's got a device that when you set it down, it gives you a stem.
It just seems like the most cookie cutter version of like combining Melusi and Duck.
Right. Now,
Like,
with that said, I do think she's growing on me over time. Like, I don't think she's a bad operator necessarily.
no,
But
no.
I don't think that she's like. There's nobody who's going to reinstall Rainbow Six Siege because they can't wait to play Thunderbird. I'll say that.
Well, I'm if I'm just being like fully egotistical and only looking at it, like I'm not hyped about playing Thunderbird when the season goes live. Like I'll play her here and there, but it's not like I can't wait to play Thunderbird and like, implement her into my like
Right.
rotation of things that like because I don't feel like she does something new. Like there's no addition to like Zero, for example, when he came out, right? That was insane. There's so many. All of a sudden, you can shoot a camera like outside that can look inside, or you could do it through a floor, and you could zap something that you otherwise couldn't do.
Yeah.
Like Nomad, there was lineups and funny things you could do where you yeet people off a balcony or put them on a bullet hole on a barricade. Actually, that's going to be an interesting thing with bullet holes and claymores and air jabs and stuff like that, I guess you can't do that anymore with the bullet hole fix. You
I
won't be able to
guess.
put an air jab on a bullet hole and then yeet people.
Right.
That's a
Yeah.
shame. That was a funny thing to do. Well,
Yeah.
So she gets a really good gun, right? She has the spear. She has the what is called the Spaz 15, the cav shotgun.
Yes. Yep.
Um,
Spaz 15. Yep.
C4 impacts.
Yep. And bearing 9.
And bearing 9, yeah. So how do I say it in the nicest possible way? I feel like they gave it all the like good fun weapons and all the good utility because otherwise, yeah.
Well, yeah, and it's a set it and forget it gadget. So here we have another high frag potential operator, 3-speed, nitro cell,
she's
good
3-speed
gun,
as well, yeah.
bearing 9. So we have another high frag potential operator with a set it and forget it gadget, which.
So I'm not against the idea of the set and forget on paper, but when it's something like this, it's just I wish there was an interaction.
Agreed. Because okay, so I'll skip to my biggest pet peeve with her right now, and it sounds like we're just bashing her. There are parts of her that I think are really cool. But okay, so let's say that you are a defender in a 1v1, and you have these coma stations. You have
coma station.
You have her. You have her stuff spread across the site. 3 of them. You're in a 1v1. And the attacker gets control of the opposite bomb site that you're in and starts planting or whatever, and you have to start making your way over there. On your way, you go into the area of effect of her gadget, and you get stemmed, giving the enemy player a very clear audio cue on exactly where you are, pretty much. I mean, they don't have the overlays like defenders do, so they don't know exactly where that coma station was, but they do get the sound cue, and they're going to be able to base your location off of that sound cue. And there is nothing that you as a defender could do about that. Now, you could say the same could be true for barbed wire. Barbed wire, the sound doesn't travel as far as what the coma station does. At least, I don't think it does. I haven't specifically tested that, but to me, it sounds significantly louder, which to me would mean that it would travel further. But yeah, so that's my big thing there. Because there isn't an interaction, you're going to find yourself in a position as a defender where those stations are going to give information to the attackers that you don't want to give them.
For me, it's kind of the equivalent of if there's like a poorly placed Maestro cam and they got Dokkaebi scanned and your Maestro's dead and you don't really have a way of like removing that.
But in that situation, the attackers had to make a play. You know what I mean? The attackers had to make a play in order to get the cams and like bring Dokkaebi.
They still have to kill everyone, right? Yeah, sure. But when you're in, I think that's the important thing. Like when you're actually in the situation, how you got there is rarely what we consider, right? Like it's the same when you got lion scan, you got slammed. You never thought about the fact that you ran to Narnia and they all like blocked you and then lion scan and killed you, right? But it felt bad that you got the lion scan or the jackal ping or whatever it might be, the drone. I don't really mind that too much because I think if we at least think that we're in a 5-stack versus 5-stack and we decided where we place the gadget and all of that, it's the responsibility of the team. But it's the same when your Capcan places a Capcan trap next to a Melusi gadget or barbed wire, right? And someone runs through and it destroys everything anyway. Like that sucks. Or when we had the electricity stuff, all of a sudden there's a mirror window that's electrified and someone throws something at it and now it's gone. I just wish that I could choose when I got it.
Yep.
If I'm playing Catwalk on Clubhouse, for example, and I'm full health, and they start throwing flashbangs and they get one wide, the second they start doing that, that's when I want the overheal. Not at some random time.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have to walk over there to the detection range and have it like activate and shoot, and it's not the most intuitive interaction.
Right.
I know that it's probably an issue adding like a bind or an accept thing for it. I have the same thing with Finka. Like honestly, Finka players are the bane of my existence. When I get a Finka boost and I don't know about it, I end up shooting the floor. I hate it. The fact that you can force it on others is not. I'm not a fan. If you do it to the enemy team, I'd honestly play Finka more. Imagine you can finger boost the other team mid gunfight, right? But yeah, with those stations, my problem is that I can't decide if they're ready. I can have a teammate randomly run by and get overhealed.
Yep.
Right, and then it's not there for what I planned to do. Maybe it's a thing with keybinds and controllers. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe it was too complicated. But yeah, all of a sudden there's going to be a lot of things on the floor that all do stuff, and
True.
we have this like little theme park of gadgets in a corner. I don't know. I think she's just better than Doc in almost every single way, because she has 4, right?
Yeah, and she can die and still have them.
Yeah, and they keep resetting like forever.
No, she has 3. She has 3. I'm sorry.
3. Okay.
Yeah,
they keep resetting.
Yeah. When you look at the total HP that she can dish out versus Doc,
yeah.
I haven't done the math, but my guess is if you did it, it would probably be 4 to 5 times the amount of HP that she can dish out in a round compared to Doc.
And now, arguably, she has a better gun and a better. Like,
I wouldn't even say it. Well, yeah, I guess you could say arguably, because the rate of fire on the spear isn't great. Like, I would say
damage fall off is good.
Yeah, because it's an AR, but she doesn't have great attachment options. I would say that she has an above average defender weapon. But then when you factor in the Bearing 9 got buffed, that recoil is very manageable now. If you're good at dragging down, the horizontal recoil got reduced significantly. I remember there was a time whenever the Bearing 9 was one of the top 10 weapons in this game.
I mean, SMG 12, Bearing 9, SMG 11, when they had low recoil.
I don't think that we're back there yet, but I do think the Bearing 9 is very, very good. So you could see her potentially running that Spaz 15 Bearing 9 combo, and now she's got sight set up in preparation.
Yep.
And yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how she plays out. I think we're on the same page as far as we're not in love with her gadget.
No,
I think that's fair to say.
We'll say one interesting thing when they changed the whole thing with Rook armor and the health pool, now you don't rely on not getting hit by a nade anymore, because you can survive the initial nade if you're overhealed.
Overheal with Rook? Is that what it takes?
Well, actually, if you're just overhealed, I think a grenade does 120 damage if it hits straight on.
Okay. That's the max amount of damage that a grenade will do?
If it hits you, like, in the mouth.
Okay.
I'm not sure if it'll do some above that, but I know that if you overstim as a Doc, for example, you won't die to nade. That's how it is currently, at least. So what you could do right now in the live build is you can run Doc with Rook, right? And once you get naded, well, you overstim, you won't die to the first nade. The second nade will down you, and then you can pick yourself up again.
Interesting.
So you don't actually have to run ADSs on it. If they are used to just tanking flashes in and nades, and they don't instantly push, the second nade won't kill you. It'll just down you, and then you'll pick yourself up, right?
And that's something that I thought would have been really interesting for them. I know this is a little bit far-fetched, but hear me out here. With Thunderbird, what if they would have made her Kona Station resistant to explosives? Meaning that, so let's say that you are a smoke playing behind a deployable shield. You could set up your Kona Station there, and if they try to nade you out, if you combine like Rook with Thunderbird, then you're going to go down from the grenade, but you will be within the area of effect of the Kona Station that you'll be able to revive yourself. So it's not as good as what you were mentioning, because if they throw another nade, you're going to die. But it would require 2 nades to kill you. And I think that could have been a really cool way to play the Kona Stations personally. Does it make sense that they're resistant to explosives? Probably not.
It's a video game. It doesn't matter, right? Like,
right.
As long as they're... I think if you were to do that, you should start looking into like messing around with how stun grenades could impact gadgets as well. I know that that's far-fetched, but why not have it so Melusi gadget triggers on a flashbang? Why not have it just open up, right? And maybe make it so Kona Station, like if a flashbang goes close to it, it just randomly shoots its heel in some weird direction.
That's super interesting, actually. There's a ton of possibility with that.
But then you would have to make, let's say, a set of 30% of the gadgets immune to explosives.
Yeah.
Right? Or whatever, arbitrary number. And then have flashes interact with them. the problem is it something that's worth introducing to a player base in year 6?
Right.
Right? Because like that, it's a massive change if flashbangs all of a sudden start having a meaning.
Sure.
Because right now you either burn ADSs or WMIs, or you throw them in a corner and hope the guy gets blind. That's it.
And that he doesn't, and that you can get to him without blinding yourself before he can turn out of the corner that he was staring at and then kill you while you're full sprint trying to get there.
Like flashbangs are insanely consistent in the right environment. Like if you go and test them, they always do the same.
Yeah.
But when you actually play, it rarely works out the way that you plan. Because if they aren't within exactly the right range, you don't get blind at all. You just get a little fog on your screen, right, or a little slight flash, and you're actually fine. On the other hand, sometimes they feel like they land half a meter like behind a wall, and you're completely blind, can't see anything.
Sure.
So I don't know. I'd love to see some sort of interaction with that.
Yeah,
Have proximity
really
gadgets react to flashbangs. Why not?
Yeah. I think that's super interesting. I've never thought about that before. Yeah. So Thunderbird, yeah. I think, and again, the more I've played, the more she's kind of grown on me. But I feel like she's grown on me because I'm a 3-speed with a good gun and a nitro cell, not because of her gadget, personally. But we'll see. We'll see how that develops. Favela casual rework. Okay, all right. God, this sounds like I am just taking a big dump on North Star right now. But can we be done with casual reworks? Like,
actually, I want that one in unranked or at least ranked.
That's what I'm saying.
I think
like,
it's a good map.
Why limit yourself that way? Why set the precedent? Why set a ceiling on your map rework that it's not going to be good enough for ranked before you ever do it?
Well, so I'm gonna sound like the angry old guy that I am. Ranked was better, and this isn't nostalgia. Ranked was better earlier on in Siege. It just was. It was a mix between having a wider map pool, having probably less players, so everyone kind of knew each other in the ELO you're playing it. Like you met the same people a lot. You got a rematch a lot, right? It was a lot happier environment as well. People didn't use bullet holes because no one knew about them, even though they've been in there for quite a while.
Yeah.
But playing ranked on house was kind of fun, man. And we have a pick and ban system. And I know that people are going to say, "Oh, but this isn't a competitive map." You're not a competitive player. Stop, right? Like I'm not buying that one. I'm not buying that thing where people go, "Well, this map isn't competitive." Like, what the hell makes a map competitive? Is it like the win-loss ratio between attack and defense? And if it is that only at Pro League level, or is it at Diamond level? What about Silver? I don't know how people go in and break it down and say that a map is competitive or not.
I think House has always had more competitive integrity than Outback ever did. In my opinion, like if a map is 90% defensive favored, meaning the defenders are winning 9 out of 10 rounds, that map has less competitive integrity than a House where, okay, yeah, there's a bunch of spawn peaks and it plays super fast and super small and whatever. But do I have a chance to win around as an attacker? That's a bigger thing to me than what
House was different because House was actually played comp.
Sure.
So
yeah,
the meta got to I think Outbreak or Outback would have been different if it was forced into comp.
Maybe.
I will die on that hill that if maps are played competitively, the online the matchmaking meta will change enough that it won't be as favored in one end or the other, right? And I know we can't have all the maps in ranked. Oh, could we have a rotation that's a bit more aggressive than what it is now? Then someone will argue, well, it should look like what Pro League looks like. I don't know if that's that important, man. Like 99.9% of people that play ranked are never going to play Pro League. Or the 3 people that are sitting there practicing in ranked to get to Pro League that aren't focused on scrimming and custom matches and FPL and all of that stuff, they're probably going to be fine, man.
Well, yeah, and the reason I said what I did about not doing casual reworks anymore is a lot of I don't know the stats behind it, but a lot of people play mostly ranked. Rainbow Six Siege, they play mostly ranked. Therefore, this Favela rework is literally doing nothing to them. This is not new content for them. It's going to go into casual and they will never play it. I've played the new house map maybe once or twice outside of custom games. Yeah. Honestly. Like that is a waste of resources. Right? What's that?
Well, yeah, I don't know if you can say it's a waste of resources because there are many people that just play casual, nothing else, right?
Okay.
I think the split is that you have a casual base that plays like mainly casual and unranked, and then every now and then they'll play ranked, and then you have the people that just only play ranked.
Right.
Like, I don't play unranked. I don't play casual. I just don't unless I don't know, got an abandoned sanction because the game crashed or something, and I have to go play casual. And I don't even know if I can actually do that. I've played maybe 3 or 4 quick matches this season because I waited for someone or because, I don't know, needed to test if my new drivers were stable, right?
Sure.
Otherwise,
I'm
the
same
only
way.
Play ranked. Yeah.
Well, I play a lot of unranked, but my point though is that if they removed that casual rework tag and then the house and the favela reworked went into ranked, then all those players who play mostly casual, they're still getting that content. But now the people who play mostly ranked are still getting new content as well. Give it a couple seasons. If it sucks and people hate it, remove it. Okay, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine. Exactly. But like, why put a tag on a rework that you're going to dedicate resources with that's going to prevent a large portion of your player base from enjoying it? Like clearly you're impressed with the Favela rework if you want it in ranked, right? Like, is that what you're saying? Like
I like the map, man.
You've seen enough to like it, so you're like, I want it.
Yeah, I haven't seen enough to know if it's a good map.
Right, but give it a couple months.
But I'll never know if it doesn't go into ranked.
Exactly.
Because I cannot go into a casual game and then get an experience of knowing that the other team has a clue what they're doing and are going to put in effort. I don't know, right? So that it could be 5 champions on the other team, but it's quick match, so they're probably not really gonna care at all, right?
Right.
With Favela, like if I do end up playing it in casual, and let's just say I end up playing against 5 really good players, they're not really gonna care, and neither are we, because there's nothing on the line, right? The setup, the site setups are not gonna be something that we've tried and failed at and failed at and failed at and improved, and finally we figure something out that works. That's what makes Siege special to me, is you look at a site and you go, this site seems impossible to hold, and then you start working on it, right? Like Theme Park, good example. Everyone instantly just thought our throne is just the best, right? And then things kind of change. You start figuring out, okay, maybe this is a weakness on this side. Maybe this side is stronger. And like that's always been the thing I'm looking for in Siege. But you're kind of getting robbed of that with the maps that are coming out marked as casual. And I think they're doing it as like damage control, because if they were to put out Favela and put it into rank, you know just as well as me that there's going to be so many people say, oh, but it's a casual map, why are they putting it in ranked, right? Like there would be outrage on that, especially after Fortress and Bartlett. But so I think Bartlett was a shit map, but I also think the community asked for Bartlett.
Yes.
And they got it.
Mm-hmm.
Fortress, I don't think was that bad. I actually, like, hindsight, I kind of enjoyed some of the games we had on it. It was different.
I don't mind how the sites played out. My problem with Fortress was that as an attacker, it was impossible to drone that map out. It felt impossible because of how many rooms there were. It kind of Tower almost kind of felt the same way in a lot of ways. It just felt like you could not drone that map out. That doesn't, I mean, at the end of the day, and listen, I'm being a complete hypocrite here because I've literally made videos complaining about maps before. But at the end of the day, both teams are playing the same map. Okay.
Also, it's okay that there's a map you don't like.
Right.
In a rotation, right? Like,
yes. But okay, so if you're playing on Fortress and we agree, okay, this map is impossible to drone out, well, guess what? The other team is dealing with that handicap, I guess you could say, as well. and they're going to have to overcome it. And whichever team overcomes it better is probably going to win the match. You could make the argument, well, we started on defense, so therefore, I don't know.
I mean, you can that one game, but you can't for an entire season.
Right.
Right? Also, you have your map bans. And then people are going to say, yeah, but what if there's 3 bad maps? There's not 3 bad maps. There's 3 maps you don't like.
I think that's kind of the problem right now with map ban is that we don't really have bad maps in ranked right now. So therefore the map ban, it takes time. You don't really feel like you're getting much out of it. And then people just say, well, we're playing the same maps all over and over again. I think if we're going to have map ban, they should take a lot more liberty with what maps they throw into ranked.
I agree. I don't know. I think it's a mistake. I think they should add at least 2 more maps to the rank pool. At least 2 more. And then I think they should legitimately run some sort, I don't know if they do, but run some sort of algorithm that when a certain map is played an insane amount, it just comes up less in the rotation. So let's say all of a sudden that the presence of Clubhouse is 80%. Well, now you just start showing it in 1 out of 10 matches instead in the pick. And you just do that for a couple of days just to force people into like playing some other stuff.
Yeah.
They don't ever have to tell anyone. It doesn't even have to be public or like just so you get the like player base to play the different maps. I don't like the idea of in CS we called it office globals. It was people that limited themselves to only playing one map. Like you could decide what maps you wanted to play, right? So they would only play office, and it was the only thing they would do. They would get really good at that map, a map that no one else plays. And they would get their max rank playing only one map ever.
Sure.
And I don't really care if other people go and get the map or get the rank doing that. Like if they could do that in Siege, that'd be fine as well. But I just want the ability to play the new maps in a structured setting. And okay, ranked isn't the most competitive or structured or whatever, but it's what most of us will ever play, right?
I think that, and again, I kind of sound like a hypocrite here because every change that's happened to ranked over time, for the most part, I've asked for it. I'm not saying like it happened because of me. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying like removing global ranks is a perfect example, or removing regional ranks. So I was a big advocate for removing remember how you used to have a separate ranked in EU versus NA? People would use that to manipulate the matchmaking and to boost and overall it is a good change that it's gone. But when you look at that change and you look at the map ban, you look at map bans, you look at all this stuff, I think there's a real feeling right now that maybe, playing ranked can get very stale right now. And I think a reason for that is because we have kind of purified, I guess you could say, the ranked experience to a certain degree with removing the amount of maps that you can possibly play, with not having a different ranked in EU versus NA or wherever, whatever region you want to switch. All that stuff has made the ranked experience a much cleaner, I would say, but it's also made it much more stale for me personally. I think a lot of other people feel that way as well. And then you also throw into the fact that you now have an MMR lock. Again, something I've been asking for. But my question is this: are people playing the game more or less because of the MMR lock that's put in place?
I don't know what the numbers are on any of this, but anecdotal and from my own experience, MMR lock has not improved the game at all at higher elo.
I will say it has improved the game at my level. If you're playing in gold or low plat, I think that it really has improved the matchmaking personally.
So the second you get to plat 2, you will eventually meet champs in your matchmaking, right? Like,
sure,
that happens. So, and I'm not against that. I think that's fine. Like, I think you should be able to, as a 5-stack of plat 2s, be able to meet a 5-stack of diamonds or champs. I have no issue with that at all. The MMR should reflect it, of course. Like, if you're a 5-stack of champs, your chance of losing the 5-stack of plat 2s should be maybe like 3% or something, right? Like 3 matches out of 100, you would lose those. And I don't mind that. It just has to reflect it in the elo. but I can't tell the difference. Like in the last week, I have bounced between both because of like massive lose streaks of like 10 losses and then 10 wins and rollback. I've been up to I think 4600 elo and then all the way down to like low plat 2 and then back up again. Just in the last week. We played against the same people the entire time. Nothing ever changed. The only thing was that there was some people that couldn't play in the stack all of a sudden because maybe they got too much rollback. Like yesterday, I got 267 elo back, right? But if that went the other way, I might not have been able to play in the stack.
Goodness gracious!
Right? Like,
yeah.
For me, it makes no. I think rollback is great. Like the games that have been played with someone who wasn't legitimate, whether it's on my team, on their team, whether we won or not, they should be eliminated. I'm for that fully. Either you have it on everything or you don't have it at all. But you do that, and then you also MMR lock. And it just seems to hurt the people that play legit.
Yeah.
Because the goblins don't care. They just have another account.
Right.
Now they're gonna add the whole where if you're unranked, you can't do it, right? I think that might do something. But for me, the only thing that's going to do is it's just going to force me to play unranked or quick play maybe. Because I can't afford to maybe... Not even... Like, I can't even say that I can't afford to go in and lose. I might not even be able to afford to play because what if I solo queue and there's a cheater on my team and I don't know and he gets banned? And what if I do that for a couple of days and there's a big ban wave and like 10 people get banned that I have played with or against in solo queue rank, right? Now I can get elo rollback and get kicked out of the ability to play with the people that I play with every day. No fault of my own. I could have the exact same, like, I could climb up and fall in elo, right? And end on the same, like, let's say I end at 4500 elo. After a week of playing solo queue. There could be so many illegitimate games in that rotation that if a big ban wave happens, I get kicked out of the elo range of the people I play with. That to me sounds fucking insane. Yeah. Like I get it if you just go in and you drop, like a 0.2 KD for a week and the people you play with are all like champ level players with 1.6 KDs and they're slamming, you're clearly not the same level, right? Like, it would make sense why all of a sudden you'd fall out if you didn't keep playing with them. You can have 5 equally skilled players. And the mix between MMR lock and elo rollback could literally screw like a handful of them over. I have a massive issue with that.
I think that's understandable. I don't think there's a good counter argument you can make to what you just laid out right there. The only thing you can say is that it's a necessary evil for MMR lock. But
I get why.
Does it need to be this tight?
Well, does it need to be there?
Period. Yeah. Well, no. Okay. Right. We've talked about that several times on this podcast. That there are alternative options that we've brainstormed. Are there other games that are doing it better? I think that's where we start. Is there another game that is doing? What is it?
So, someone in the comments will be able to correct this. I think it's Dota or it's League.
It's League.
It's League.
It's Flex Q. Flex Q. Yep. But do you think that's a fair comparison?
I don't know because I don't understand the game really. I don't really know what.
But where I start is they literally have millions of people playing that game at any moment. Sure. Like there's probably 1 million people playing League of Legends right now, and there might be 80,000 playing. Well, I guess there might be 150, 200,000 playing Siege on PC.
Maybe there'd be more if they could play with each other.
But yeah, you can make that. You can make that argument. What came first, the chicken or the egg? That's a part of this argument. And I think that there is something there because basically the way I understand how that flex queue works in League is it's a separate queue and they're basically saying, hey, listen, if you want to play this, you can, and you can play with whoever you want, but just keep in mind, matchmaking is going to be based off the highest person, and it's going to be tough for you. And that's like the disclaimer they literally put in the flex queue description, if I'm remembering this correctly. And
right.
that's cool. Okay, you want to play with your friends? Guess what? You can go into this queue. You can play with whoever you want, but it's going to be based off the highest matchmaking. Now, the questions I have would be for that League of Legends in the flex queue. Is it 5-stack only or 4-stack only? I think League of Legends is 5, right? Is it 5 or 4?
I believe it's 5.
I think it's 5. Is it a 5-stack only? So what happens in that flex queue if I'm a copper and I play with my diamond friend and we're a 2-stack? Who is it going to pair us with?
Well,
who are the other 3 players going to be?
I will almost guarantee, and this is just an assumption, but this is how I would want it if it was in Siege. There's no way to make a flex queue without having a 5-stack. There's no good way of doing that. Because if you take the average between the 2 people, you're going to get a weird matchmaking, right? Like, let's say we have lowest rank and highest rank playing together in a 2-stack, and now we fill that with whatever's in the middle. Now you just messed up the game for the 3 people that joined the stack, because they're still going to be playing against people that are way out of their skill level. So it has to be 5-stack only. But then the argument that like the people will say, well, you can actually make it so you have MMR lock if you're 2-stack or 3-stack or whatever, right? And then you can make it really tight. You could make it so you can only play with people in your own rank. And I wouldn't be against that if it's a duo or 3-stack. That's fine. I actually kind of like that idea. Maybe you should make the ranks wider, so it would make a bit more sense, right? So only diamonds play with diamonds if you solo queue. You're guaranteed to get that. Now I don't know if Siege has the player base to support it, queue times, whatever. Doesn't matter. Ideal situation. But with a flex queue, I would just say that if, let's say I'm plat 1 and I queue with 4 friends that are between silver and gold, we all get queued for the plat 1 rating. Now, the counter argument that people will come with is that, well, if that keeps happening, let's say we face 5 plat 1s, we will most likely lose. We know that, right? Like, that's fair. We signed up for this. We wanted to play together, and they wanted to experience it, and everyone was good with it. Now, the plat 1 team is not going to get as good of an experience as if they played against another full stack of plats, right? Their win percent will be a lot higher. But I would lose a little bit of elo, and a little bit of elo, and a little bit of elo every time that we lose a game, right? And eventually, we'd be playing against the next tier down and the next tier down, and it would even out. And I don't think that there's going to be anyone that is, let's say, trying to get champion, that will keep playing with 4 gold players, like just for the sake of abusing the system, because then he's just going to lose his rank. Right? What's the point?
The only thing I can throw at you is I don't even want to say this because it's such a small percentage of people who are doing this. What if you have that plat 1 who's saying, I just want to get clips? So he uses playing with his silver buddies as a way of deranking without actually deranking, eventually ends up in gold, and is now just slamming people in gold because he deserves to be a plat 1 player. But he's played with his silver friends enough to the point where his rank is now in gold. Well,
that's already happening right now. It's just happening on level 60 accounts instead.
Right. Okay.
So that's true. I would rather see them do it on their main account.
Okay.
Because at least then the silver who is getting slammed by a champ knows what's up.
Yeah.
At least you can correlate it, because if I'm silver or gold and I meet a champ that's level 60, I would not be able to tell the difference between a cheater and a really good player. Like, they can run around with a pistol and 360 everyone. Right? Like, that's the skill difference.
Yeah.
So the experience is already ruined for the lower level player. And I don't think it will be abused that much. It didn't feel like it was being abused in CS, at least in my experience. In CS, as long as you have a 5-stack, anyone can queue with anyone.
Okay.
And god damn it, was it fun. Because you could have a 4-stack of really good players and good friends, and a 5th that wanted to give it a try. and you could bring them in, and you could all laugh as they like try to get their footing right, and they could improve with the group. That's another thing. Like, if I have a friend who would like to improve at Siege, there is no legitimate good way for me to get him there and play against the same, because I can't go down to where he's playing without smurfing, right? And I can't bring him up to where we're playing without boosting.
What about unranked?
It's not the same. People don't play the same. They just don't.
That is true.
And
yeah,
you can do your best. Like, I think that's my problem with Siege, because I have the same argument, by the way, when people say, "Oh, but I have like 5 Smurf accounts so I can play with my friends." Like, then play unranked, right? Like, meh, problem solved. But it's not the same if you truly want to get better, because the people you play against have to take it serious to a certain extent. Otherwise, you won't get the feedback. Like, if you do a setup and people just rush in the same door every single time, it's there's nothing for you to learn. So in my opinion, unranked is fine for, like, if I just turn my brain off and I want to run around and have some fun. But I never find people, like, if I take my rank stack and we jump into an unranked, I will promise you every single one of them will go in Swan Dig. They will not be able to keep their focus up because there's nothing there. Like,
right,
win or lose doesn't matter, right? It's only yourself controlling it, and we're really bad at that.
Well, let's get back into North Star, because there's a lot more stuff here to go over, other than just Favela and Thunderbird. First of all, Ash recoil. Ash got nerfed hard. She lost a breaching round, and her recoil is significantly more. There is significantly more recoil on the R4C. What are your thoughts with that?
So I love Twitch and Buck recoil. I love difficult to control recoil. I don't like high first shot jumps. If it's consistent, I'm good with it. Like, if it's the same jump in between every, I feel like Ash's gun, like, jumps and then the recoil is like, okay. But I wish all guns would have way harder to control recoil.
Agreed.
But the zigzag bullshit, they have to stop with that. LS recoil, nah. I hate it. If it was consistently always the same, and I'm not even talking predictable, but if it was always first to the left for 17 bullets and then to the right, then sure, now we can start, like, really practicing and getting good with it. But every now and then it'll just go to the other side.
Yeah.
And I hate that.
I agree with you on the whole recoil thing. I mean, as far as Ash goes, I'm good with this.
Yeah, I'm fine.
And you know what? I think maybe I'm reading into this too much, but I think that the fact that they just very recently gave Ash a 3rd breaching round, and now they're removing it and they're nerfing her recoil in R4C. I think that is a very good sign for the long-term success of this game from a balancing perspective, because it would be very easy as a dev to have a little bit too much pride to do something like that. Like, oh God, we just gave her that 3rd breaching round. Do we really want to remove this? I mean, that kind of makes us look dumb, doesn't it? You know? But the simple fact is, okay, they recognized, hey, we have a problem with bulletproof gadgets right now. Ash is one of the people who has an answer to that. Ash is one of the people that people don't mind playing. So let's give Ash a 3rd breaching round. Help us get through this bulletproof gadget meta, this utility meta that some people have called it. And then once we're through this and we have a little bit more options for the players, like the Gone 6, like the Melusi rework, then now we can rein her back in. Like, that's a great sign. And I applaud the devs for doing that. And I think that as long as they're willing to do stuff like that, like, hey, this is a problem right now. This isn't going to be the forever solution, but let's throw this Band-Aid on it by doing this right now. This will help. And then maybe next season we can roll out the permanent fix. I love to see it. And I'm really encouraged by that. So I think the Ash nerfs make sense and put her in a much better place. And keep in mind, like, everybody out there, like, the R4C has needed nerfed for so long. There is no gun in the game. I'm not going to sit here and tell you the R4C is the best gun in the game, but there's no gun in the game that I feel like I get away with more stuff with. Does that make sense to you? at all?
Sure.
Like there's no gun in the game that I've ever felt like maybe like I land a headshot as I'm ADSing, or maybe I just like get a lucky spray and get a headshot. There's no gun in the game that I feel like I get like luckier with than the
I think it's
R4C.
the Ash playstyle, man.
Yeah, maybe that's it. But keep in mind here that Ash still has the G36C as another option, which has more sight options available, and they just buffed the recoil last season, so it's not like Ash is going to disappear. You know,
And
there's
people
still
do fine.
options.
People do fine on Yana with that gun.
Exactly.
So the way I'm looking at it is, if people are panicking about these like nerfs here, I don't know if they didn't play in year one, or if it's just because it's hitting the character that they like. Smoke lost an ACOG on a sidearm. That's a nerf. Frost's shotgun could kill people like in the other end of the map, right? Cav's pistol used to two-shot down you at any range.
Yeah.
Like, this is nothing. She's losing one ass charge. You'll be fine, and she's getting a recoil increase, right? I like, honestly, they should have the freedom to. Well, I mean, they have because they decide, but I think the community should be open-armed about like pretty big changes on any operator. If an operator like gets played a lot or becomes really strong, I don't see the issue with nerfing them or buffing them if they're too weak, to try to like see what happens.
Sure.
Then you can go in and say, well, what about competitive integrity? What about Pro League? Blah blah blah. Well, fuck it, change it so they don't have that patch, or play it on a safe patch, whatever you want to call it. But for the rest of us, when it's only elo on the line or it's casual, I want to have a fun experience. Like that's why most of us play.
Yeah.
Right? And Ash had 3. She was pretty damn good. Her recall was insane. Good operator rate, like presence through the roof. The presence on the Wind Delta graphs they have now, like she's above 80%.
Mm-hmm.
She's by far the most picked attacker, right? Maybe hit her a bit because she's been like that for a long time.
Yeah. I think it makes perfect sense. As far as the other recoil changes, they buffed the SMG-12 recoil, the Bearing 9 recoil, and then they nerfed Visual's K1A recoil. Any thoughts on that stuff?
Yes. Slight rant on the. I wrote it in a tweet as well. Slight rant on the way that they do that stuff. We need like a real one-to-one comparison on stuff like this, and we need it in game. Like we need to see what the recoil is like in the picking weapon phase or something, because new people coming back after a season might not read the blocks they make, right? Maybe you're gone for 2 seasons, and you're not going to go back and read like old patch notes to figure out that the recoil changed, or that now these attachments do this. So like the flash hider compensator stuff. Okay, yeah. So it's one is vertical, one is horizontal. Great, but how much?
Yes.
Why does it not say that in game?
That's a great point, and
I think
also,
it's ridiculous.
Even the patch notes. Correct me if I'm wrong here. The patch notes are going to read Ash's R4C has
increased recoil.
More, yeah. Why not say 10% more recoil, or or give us the numbers with it? Why not?
I wish we would get well, first off, a dev block that we could always refer to that is fully updated with how the recoil works in Siege, like fully explained. So there isn't any arguments anymore, because there's a lot of like rumors in the community and people make up their own ideas of how stuff works and how it doesn't. And a full explanation of the attachments. So like right now, if I'm a new player and I go on YouTube and I look up, I will promise you there are people that are sitting there making a video saying the best attachment for X gun.
Right.
And then they spray 4 times on a wall and they go, see, look, it's the best.
Right.
That doesn't mean anything, right? You might go and do it 4 times on again, and then counter the recoil, and you end up getting a better one. For some people, less horizontal is good. For some people, less vertical is good. But the fair way of doing it is letting people know exactly what it is they're choosing. Because if one gives, let's say, 10% less horizontal, but the one that gives less vertical only gives 5%. I'm taking the horizontal any day of the week. That is so much better, right? But if the one that gives less horizontal gives like 5%, but the one that gives less vertical gives 20, I'm going with the vertical one.
Right.
And sure, fair counterpoint is, well, you can just jump in game and try it. Yeah. Well, how many guns are there in Siege?
Well, not only that, there isn't a way to efficiently try out the attack. What if, imagine if in T Hunt you could hit a button while you're in the middle of a round and switch attachments. Then you could really get an idea. But when you were waiting 2 minutes in between switching out the barrels and getting back into a round of T Hunt, that's not a good way for the average person to compare stuff. Like that's
actually
fair.
A really fair point. Shooting range would help a lot with all of that. I just don't see why the numbers are not there.
Agreed. Agreed.
The same with suppressor. Like the fact that some of the suppressor numbers are off. I don't get why. I don't understand it. So maybe there's some magic code that makes it difficult. Maybe it's sloppy. I don't know. Maybe there's a good excuse for it. But just maybe fix it.
Yeah, I don't know.
Like, I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not assuming it's something they can just click on. But I think maybe it should be somewhat of a priority to all new. Like Siege has a massive onboarding issue.
Oh
massive.
my god! Don't even get me.
Right,
Can we not get me started on that, because we have a lot more to go over.
When people come in and they say, "What do you think about the new operator?" Right? Or what do you think about the new patch? I'm just imagining someone that just started Siege. Like I had one in chat today that was like, I just got the game like a couple of weeks ago. Do you have any tips? I'm like, for what?
You were like watch Get Flanked videos.
Yeah, of course. Like where do you start, right?
Yeah.
So now he has to make a choice between muzzle brake, flash hider, and compensator. And the only thing he knows is that one resets faster, one goes left less, and one goes up less.
Right.
And then he comes and asks me, well, how much? And I have to sit there and go, I don't know.
Yeah.
I play 8 hours a day for the past 6 years. I have no idea.
What, I'm sorry, I have a list here in front of me of all the changes with North Star. And I want to get your thoughts on no more dead bodies, the Ragdolls being gone, and the holograms being up. Yeah. Huge. I mean, it sounds like we're being kind of negative here, but that's a huge change. Huge change. Props to them for doing that. And honestly, the community has received it so far much better than I expected. Yep. There's been a few people that have made some comments, but I expected the community to not receive this very well. I think that the way that they're handling it is very good. One thing I'll say about bullet holes, because we already talked about that, I'm not going to go over it all again, but the way that they solved the bullet holes is way more elegant than any idea I'd ever heard. Like we talked about it on here before about putting stickers around it, like a melee hole on the outside or something like that to make it easier.
They put stickers in the middle, which is genius.
Perfect. Yes, it's a great solution because it doesn't really change as a player. The only thing it changes is I can't use that bullet hole to try to kill people. It doesn't change like the mechanics in the game necessarily or anything like that. So I love it. I just wanted to throw that out real quick. Sorry.
I will give insane credit for that one. Like, and I don't like, this is a good example of how stupid you and I are when we're talking about this and not understanding like that they could have put it in the middle, right?
Right.
Like both you and I were like, oh, they could put a decal on top, and then we're thinking about how that could potentially be good or bad. This is like such a good solution.
Yep.
Like when you're just playing, you don't notice it at all. Mm-hmm. The only change in general is that you don't see the light change when people pass, and you can't use the bullet holes. That's it.
And sound wasn't traveling through those bullet holes anyway, right? It has to be like a bigger enough hole.
Like, pretty much a shotgun hole, like a Rooney punch basically is. Gotcha. Actually, I think a Rooney punch is like exactly the size for like having proper sound, right?
Yeah.
The one thing that it changed that I didn't think about before we started the conversation is that I've been using it where I put a bullet hole on a barricade and I put an air jet on it. So when people run past it, they can yeet it, right? Like,
right.
Really fun, super abusive way of using it, but it was fun. I don't think I can do that anymore. Well, on the other hand, I never have to worry about being spawn peeked from like I was doing it all day today. I was just spawn peeking for bullet holes and barricades, and like if it's there, I'm gonna use it. Right, as long as it's not a glitch, then everything is fair game in my opinion. No matter how dirty it is. That's why I play Blackbeard. But the fact that they're changing it, it's great. Like it's not gonna, I'm not gonna feel limited. It's gonna make a lot of people less upset when they lose, or at least they need to find a new excuse.
Yeah.
And honestly, I'm good with that. The dead body stuff, really really good, and I'm very happy the way they did it. It's very close to what we actually talked about a long time ago.
Sure.
We were just talking about having the print on the floor or like a chalk outline, I think. The one thing I want to see that I haven't tested yet is what happens when a ton of people die in the same spot. I'm a little worried about the size of the icon and the translucency of it. Like imagine 3 people vault in through a window and something weird stuff happens, like over around, like a trophy window on Chalet, whatever. You have a guy playing on the window who's spawn peeking, he dies. Then someone jumps in, dies. Someone else jumps in and dies. Like, how much does this, like, does the emblems build up? And are we gonna get to like a place where maybe you couldn't see because there was a hologram? Like, is that ever gonna be a thing? Maybe there's a hole in the floor and someone died on top of it and you can't really get a good angle to look down through the floor because the emblem is there, right? I think those are the only things. If they just got removed when you ADS'd, that could be something, but then you could still miss something when you're not ADS, so I don't know if it would truly fix it, to be honest.
Those have been 2 good changes. What about the Melusi Banshee rework? For anybody who's not familiar, basically the Banshee now, once you enter its area of effect, it opens up, and once it's open, you can shoot the middle of it and it will destroy it.
No feedback. It's good. That's it. Like I have no issue with it.
I think it's good. I think that Melusi's still very strong. Because you have to enter the area of effect. I really liked what you mentioned about stuns opening it up, because that would give you a way of clearing it without entering the area of effect. But just the fact that you have to enter the area of effect in order to clear it means that the defenders are still getting a lot of value out of it. Yeah. So, and maybe that's a good thing. Like, I'm not saying you want Melusi nerfed off the planet, but I'm not sure that this is going to remove her from being as meta as she is right now. But with that said, it's a step in the right direction. It's definitely an improvement.
Like, she's going to be harder to use, but she's still going to be great.
Yeah.
Like, without a doubt. The same with Lesion. People were like, oh, Lesion's going to be bad now because he doesn't do damage on... Like, Lesion's still really good.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You just have to think a bit more about how you use it. The Mira and Maestro stuff. I hate the Mira thing.
Really?
Yes.
Why?
Because the places where Mira is strong right now are not places where you would be able to get to melee them.
Agreed.
Places where Mira is fun are all the places where they're easy to melee. I don't like that. Like, the idea of the unorthodox, like putting the mirror window all the way up against the wall, then shooting and then using it to impact, like, that was a fun way of using her, right? Mm-hmm. Like Garage Wall on Consulate or something. Now you just walk up there and melee it, and it's useless.
Do you think that Mira needed a nerf to begin with?
Yes, but only for the reason that I think she needed to not become a default ban.
Okay.
I don't like the idea that there are operators that just keep getting banned because they are so annoying to deal with. But I think that could be done by giving... Like, there are a few operators that are great counters to Mira, right? Hibana, Ace, Twitch, Zero. Maybe look at, like, the top, I don't know, 10 operators, and then give one of them a good way of dealing with it. Or make it so the Gun 6 breaks the class. Whatever. Like, have some, like, a bit more, I don't know, limited in terms of, like, right now, you just take Monty, you walk up, you smack a mirror window, and it's useless. And then there was someone in chat the other day that said that yeah, but if your mirror window gets punched, you deserve to lose it because it would be so easy to deal with. I don't agree, man. Like
Not
it's
with a
very
Monty.
easy. It's also very easy to get up to a mirror window, depending on where it is. It's very hard to like fight it for a long period of time. But throwing a couple of flashes in there, and then running up and punching it, and then they have no idea. That's not that difficult, right?
Yeah.
And also the animation looks really scuffed.
It does look kind of weird.
I don't mind that. The fact that it just instantly goes to shattered,
Right.
It's just I don't know. I think it should cost more to do. But man, with the Meister cams, I think it's good
Yep. Yeah, I like the
because
Meister cams.
the Meister cams can be placed anywhere, right? Like you're really, like, it's really your fault if you place them in a place where they're easy to melee, and it's a camera that shoots lasers.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I feel like the mirror windows we're gonna lose that interaction where attackers take over the mirror windows and you get to use them. But I'm sure that there's gonna be some interesting, like I was trying to bait people with placing the mirror window and punching it on purpose, and then placing it the reversed way so the attackers would shoot it because people can't help themselves. When they see the canister, they're like, oh, and then I threw C4 for it.
I wonder if you could also bait people, like, I don't know, like I'm thinking on like Cafe, if you were playing the mirror window that's in freezer, could you replace a C4 under where they would be to melee the window and bait them like that? You know what I mean? Like under the floor?
I mean, you doubted that, but at that point, if you have someone playing there,
you should get the kill, right?
Right.
Or you could just throw the C4 out the mirror. Yeah, I
want to see some fun interactions though with people like reinforcing stuff, putting the mirror windows on there, and then having them for retakes. Like, right, you could put them on and then you could smack them, and if you at some point need a line of sight, you can create one in a reinforced wall. So I enjoy the interaction. I just think it's a shitty way of nerfing.
Well, let's move on to the test server now, because there's a lot to talk about there. There's a lot of stuff that's in the test server that isn't necessarily coming with North Star. I mean, I'll be straight up honest. Let me just say this. I haven't played very much the test server, not because I haven't wanted to. Well, first of all, I was traveling over Memorial Day weekend, so that took a little bit of time out. But the test server for me has not worked very well. So for me to get on, I had to use a VPN one time in order. I think that was an Ubisoft Connect issue or something. I had to like basically tell it that I was connecting from Central US because any of the East servers that I was trying, it wasn't working. My buddy, and I thought it was just a me problem. Like I didn't think there was any way that this was, a problem associated with the game at this point. But my buddy was having the same issue. I was like, hey, get a VPN and get on Central. And he did it and it worked. So there was something going on with that. I don't know. I know they fixed a lot of bugs over the last 3 or 4 days, and I haven't tried it yet. So maybe they fixed it. Once we got on, we were getting a matchmaking error consistently, and then we had 4 people, and there weren't enough people playing the test server in order for a 4-stack to find a game. So we eventually find a 5th, and then we get one game, and then one of my players gets a disconnect, gets an abandoned sanction, can't get back on. And I was just like, you know what? At that point, it had been 2 hours. It had been 2 hours since like 3 or 4 of us originally got on together, and we're like, hey, let's play some Siege test server. And we managed to get in one game where the last round of it was, only 4 of us. And I was just like, let's go play Apex. I was just done.
I played exactly 10 games. But then we got placed, and then we couldn't find games.
Dude, I'm so tired of this.
Yeah.
Like, we have the same conversation every season about some of these things, and like I'm getting worn out. Like I'm sorry to sound like
now. Like this
because
is,
because of what?
The worst test server experience I have ever had.
I agree.
And I will give people a ton of leeway on a test server in terms of bugs, balancing issues, all of that. That's what it's there for. I expect there to be tons of bugs in game, right? Like weird stuff. There was the grenade bug that terrified the shit out of me. You literally have a grenade marker on your screen for the entire round if a grenade landed close to you. It was horrific. Just having a red nade marker for the entire round. Like, fair. That is what it is. But if you're asking me to test drive a car but you forget to put the wheels on it, it's a little bit difficult to test drive. Like, I played 10 games where the entire time the FPS every 10 seconds kept dipping. And it was the most unsmooth experience. Okay, fair enough, maybe that was just a day one thing. I don't know, because day two, when we tried, there was not enough people playing to get a game. And there are pretty big and pretty important changes happening on the test server. Like, the drone after death. I really wish that I could proper try it.
Yeah.
So I didn't have to try and have some sort of strong opinion on it based on like 2 hours or 3 hours of playing it. Because that is not a fair amount of time to like figure out what the impact is. Because you go in with a narrative of this is going to be too strong or this is fun, and then it's very easy to back that up if you only play like 3 or 4 or 5 hours, right? If I could have played that for the entire week and there was a reason for it, I would have done that. There's no way I would have played it on main build if TS was stable, if there was enough people playing that I could actually get games. Now, I don't care if I get something for playing TS, because for me, getting to test the new stuff in a game that I care about makes enough sense for me, right? Like, I'm fine, but I understand why it doesn't for others. If you only have 8 hours to play a week, and you're trying to get whatever, your black eye skin for some gun and you're farming alpha packs, it sucks going on test server and spending your time playing there in your limited amount of time, because like we're pretty damn privileged when it comes to time to play, because it's what we do, right?
Right.
Like, it doesn't matter for me if I play test server live build, and I have all the skins I want. But if it was me coming home from work and then playing Siege, I'm not gonna sit and wait fucking 5 minutes, 10 minutes for a game on a test server to play and then not get renown, not get levels, not get anything. And I don't believe that people should be paid to test it. It's a service that a game does for you, so you get to try it. But why not just make it so the renown that you're grinding there is getting transferred to your main account? Why not make it so the XP is going to your main account? Why am I locking? I'm level 110 on test server.
Why? Okay, I think I agree with what you're saying there, but I think that we're skipping a step here.
Sure.
Because I think the first thing that needs talked about is that you have to provide an atmosphere on the test server that will allow people to find matches quickly, not for the first day, but for the entire time the test server is up. And the problem is when people get ranked, once you get ranked on the test server, you can't find matches anymore. Yep. They need to just reset the MMR after every match. Or
link it to your main elo and then just call it ranked, but just like you just started the elo you're at. Honestly, I would so much prefer that.
Or maybe they removed ranked and the only option is to play unranked. But you know what I mean? And then you wipe the MMR there. I don't know, but like you've got to solve this. You've got to solve it.
Wouldn't this actually be pretty neat? Like think about your experience. So you have like a diamond stack and you have a gold stack and whatever groups of friends, and they go into test server, they start playing. Instead of like, why are we playing placement matches on test server? That's ridiculous. Allow us to play against the elo that we're normally against, so we can test in the environment that we play.
I don't disagree with what you're saying. Again, I think we're going one step too far though. I think you start with this foundation. We do whatever the fuck we have to do to make sure that people can find matches quickly and easily on the test server the entire time that it's up. You start there, okay? Once you accomplish that goal, which that goal has not been accomplished at all this test server, by the way. Within 3 days of the test server going live, a 4-stack, as a 4-stack, I could not find a game in ranked, unranked, or quick match. We all had to break up, and even as a solo, I couldn't find a game ranked at that point. I could only find the Discovery playlist solo. Anyway, so yeah, once you accomplish that, then yeah, okay, now we can start talking about what you're talking about as far as, maybe tweaking it and, for a better
No.
matchmaking experience. But right now, nobody's playing the test server because it doesn't work. I just looked at Steam charts. The Steam charts are available for the test server. I think there were 300 people playing it. Okay? And today is the 1 week anniversary. It's only been out for a week, right?
And let's just pretend that there's twice as many on Uplay. That's still really bad.
That's still under 1,000 people worldwide that are playing the test server right now.
There are more people playing normal ranked right now. Like way more.
Well, again, it comes back to what we talked about earlier. What came first, the chicken or the egg? I asked people because I saw a lot of people not playing the test server, and I'm like, I literally put out a poll on Twitter saying, why aren't you playing the test server right now? It's been live for like 2 days and people were already back on the live servers. And they're like, there were some people who were like, it's not worth it for me. I don't get anything out of it. And okay, for those people, you're never going to change their mind. But a lot of the responses were, I tried, I got matchmaking errors and I couldn't find a match.
Yeah, you were missing one answer you had 3 options. You missed the option of, I really tried, but I can't.
Yeah.
Because that's like, I tried for a day, and then I sat down and I thought, I can't justify the amount of time I have to wait, and like it just, test server should run smooth in terms of performance. That's a very important thing. It is so hard to justify testing new things if the performance of like the game doesn't run well. If the game is stuttery, laggy, crashes, that is very, very difficult to like have some sort of energy to test new things and to figure out if they're working as intended. If they're trying some insane stuff with like new recoil patterns or change the damage on grenades, whatever crazy stuff that they might want to do, I'm all for it. Like, go as insane as you want, but quality test the test server enough. I'm not sure if this is true or if it was just for some of us, but Vulkan didn't work on test server at all to start with.
Really? I didn't know that.
Like, people couldn't launch at all with Vulkan. The game just didn't launch. I only played DirectX 11, so it didn't matter for me, but I had these massive stutters that made it unfun, right? Then after that, like the next day, there was matchmaking errors. And then we're ranked, and now we can't get games. And if we get a game in quick match, people just keep leaving.
Oh yeah, and that comes back to your point, is like Turn After Death, the most, I would say, the most significant change that's ever been made to this game.
Without a doubt, the most significant change. Like nothing comes even close.
And the only feedback I was able to get really was playing in Discovery playlist on a new map in Favela.
Yeah.
That's not where you're going to find out how strong it is.
And some of the like really strong opinions on it that I saw on Twitter was from like really talented players that played against your average random Joe on an unranked in a test server, where like, unless you're playing against equal skill and you go forth and back, right? Like, you need a decent amount of attacking rounds. You can't have one clutch where one guy wins a 1v3 and you're all droning and pinging and then say, yeah, because this happened, therefore it's too strong. Like, I'm not saying that it should be in or it shouldn't be in. I'm just saying we haven't tested it enough. We just haven't. Anyone that has like a definitive opinion on it yet have not played it enough. Or at least I will not respect the idea that you've already figured out what the truth is on this one. Because we've seen plenty of people win a 1v3 anyway. Like, just because you have that one clip, it's just not enough, man. Like, by that logic, we could argue that, Mira's too strong because I got a 3k from this Mira window, right? No one countered it. Or, well, if you ban Jaeger, you can just kill everyone with grenades. It's just not as simple as that.
And then, it brings me back to this conversation as well. The test server is important, but it also does affect the hype that goes into each season, because there's a 3-week period where people on PC are playing it, getting clips with it, and showing off the content, and console players aren't. And then by the time it actually does come to live servers, it's not really that new or fresh necessarily. at this point, the test server's dead. That's not an exaggeration. 1 weekend, the test server is dead, and it's not going to pick back up between now and the next. So, I mean, what do we have? Another 2 weeks or another 3 weeks? I don't know the release date of the season. They have been doing, 3-week or maybe even 4-week test servers. So we have a dead test server that's that we're just going to sit idly for the next 2 to 3 weeks after people have already played the new content. And then they're going to expect to roll out the season and have any type of hype around it.
But it's such a, I don't know what the English word for it. We call it bite fear. Like the idea of like you've gotten bitten by a dog, now you're afraid of all dogs, right? Like now with test server, like I don't feel like logging on to try it because I don't feel like getting my hopes up and then sitting there waiting for 10 minutes, not getting a game and then closing it again.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't want to play it because I don't want to wait, which means that someone else has to wait longer because I didn't play, and now it just spirals.
Yep.
It's such a rough thing because as soon as you get under the threshold of like getting games regularly, it's just done.
Yep.
No one is gonna go, oh well, maybe it's good today, because I've done that for the past seasons. Like I've logged on every day to try and see if I could get a game. The last couple of seasons, getting games on test servers have been rough. It's been impossible.
And as a streamer, you can't do that. You can't sit and wait for a 5-minute queue as a streamer. You will kill your viewership.
I mean, I could do it off stream to test stuff, right?
Right.
But I don't want to spend
everybody's time
minutes.
is valuable. Yeah. That's ridiculous to ask.
And it's such a shame because the smoke propagation stuff.
Yeah.
I really want to mess around with that. I want to be ready for when it comes out. So I've been on custom servers instead, trying to figure out like how it proper works and how I can abuse and use it, right? Like bullet hole changes, all these things. But at this point, it's going to be just as fresh to me when I get to play it on the live build. Because I played the closed test that we got to record on, just like you, and we played the test server, and I still don't feel like I've actually really played the new season.
Yeah, no, I kind of feel the same way. And then, okay, so now can we talk about Drone After Death? Do you feel qualified to give your? I guess let's talk about Drone After Death, but let's give this caveat. We haven't played it nearly as much as either of us would like to at this point.
No.
And with that said, I will give you my opinion on what I've seen thus far. That's probably the best disclaimer that
I think that was a fair disclaimer.
Yeah. Let's start with you. What are your thoughts on Drone After Death?
Well, I really like to give things the benefit of the doubt, like I did with Shanka and all of that. I would like to see it in play. I would like to see what happens. Because right now, there's not a doubt in my mind that it's so immensely oppressive being in a 1vx and having X amount of drones come after you, right? I've been in a situation where there was plenty of drones hunting me, and I won. I've been in a situation where I lost, and I've been in a situation where I was the one droning for the other people, and it had a massive impact or it had no impact. I'm not comfortable saying that it's broken because both teams get to do it. I think some things like Echo would need some adjustments, but I don't like the idea of just scrapping the whole thing because, oh, well, you shouldn't be able to affect a round after you die.
I agree.
Like, there's too many selective like setups where people are like, oh, well, you can win after you're dead with Maestro, with Echo. You can with Capcan, with Frost, right? But then they go, yeah, but they can't move, or this, or they're static. I mean, it doesn't matter. I enjoy the idea of having people, or giving people a reason to stay active after. And I am completely with, I believe it was Lycan that tweeted out that if you can't stay focused, actually I don't want to quote if it was him or not because I can't remember, but if you can't stay focused for 3 minutes after death and to be on a cam, you shouldn't be playing Siege because it's a hardcore competitive game, blah blah blah. I think I'm with people on that. Like I get that if you die, you better get on cams, and if you don't, you're a shitty teammate. You're an annoying player. Doesn't change that almost every single time I play, it's actually quite normal that we have to remind people to get on a drone.
Yeah.
And that's at a decent level.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's not pro league level, but
Yeah.
like we try to play our best, right? And I still go through cams every now and then and notice that, oh, no one is actually on cams because they're spectating their teammates. Maybe if they had something to do, we'd push the idea of getting better communication, better droning, all of that. Like communication has kind of like dipped a bit in quality after yellow ping, which is a bit disappointing because you have more ways of being precise now. But I feel like people have gotten sloppier. There's just like a ton of yellow pings and you don't really know what means what.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Like Intel is such a big part of Siege. I like the idea that when you're dead, you can use the drones that you haven't lost yet.
I think I agree with most of what you're saying there. I think that there is a realm in which drone after death can work. Me personally, I think that Echo and Maestro being able to kill or win a round from death is too much. I think that for an Echo player, they can move their drones after death, sure. But maybe the Sonic Blast is disabled after death. I think that for Maestro, he can't shock anymore after death. I think that you get rid of those. Those are like the extreme examples right there that the people have the biggest problem with. And I understand why. Listen, if a Maestro is spawn peeking in the beginning of the round and I gun him and he ends up killing me later in the round by shooting his evil eye at me while I'm 5 health, I'm going to be upset. That's not going to sit well with me. And it's one thing if the game has always been like that. But to insert that into a game that's 6 years old, I think that is a little bit too much. As far as the attackers drone after death, I would like to see that tried again. Whether that is in the live servers or the test server, I don't know. But the aspect of that I think is a bit too much is I don't think they should give you training wheels by dropping your extra drone when you die. If you died with a drone in your pocket, that drone is gone.
I agree.
And if you had a drone alive on the map somewhere, you can still drive that one. Or if you had 2 drones alive on the map, then now you have 2 drones. But there's no world in which the Rainbow Six Siege that I know, this hardcore punishing FPS, says, "Oh, you died? Well, here's your extra drone. Have fun with that."
It's also really awkward that it just like falls out of your butt when you die.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
90% of the time, that drone is instantly dead, right? That brings me on a rant. Why did they put a massive X in the middle of your screen when you die? It's not like I'm confused about what happens. Why is there a massive death icon in the middle of your screen?
Like, they changed all that. I don't know why exactly.
I'm fine with the way the kill cam works. But yeah. You don't need to put the icon in the
right.
You know you died. You literally have an out of body experience. The camera snaps around to whoever killed you, and then you get a kill cam. That like massive death icon in the middle, that just seems annoying.
What are the metrics that you would look at to decide if drone after death was working?
Well, so I think they made a massive mistake with the way that they decided to test it, because I think drone after death. So first off, in the community, there seems to be 2 arguments or 2 sides to why people think it's too strong. Some think it's too strong because attackers have too much info after, and some thinks that the Maestro and Echo is the issue. So first off, we have to like decide which side. Like they can't both be right. You can't have both of them be overpowered.
You could say that both of those things are negatively affecting my enjoyment of the game.
Sure. But that doesn't have to have anything to do with like the strength, right? And also on top of that, maybe you'd get used to it over time. Maybe it's because it's new, whatever. But a way of balancing it would be the fact that you have to pick your operator during prep phase as an attacker. Like I think that is so important to the idea of drone after death. Because you are using a drone to drive around and figure out what you want to use for this attack. You don't just keep your drones and then you rush in and die and take a random operator. Like if people were to play it adaptively and correct, or whatever you want to call it, and they would see, for this site we would like a buck, right? You put a few more drones at risk to get this info now. So your drone count, you're maybe gonna lose 1 or 2 drones in ranked at least during the prep phase, right? Maybe we're gonna start seeing some defenders actually learning how to spawn peak drones during prep phase.
Right.
That's possible. Maybe we would up the entire level of the game. Maybe people would just overall improve. Maybe not. I don't know. But I think the attacker prep phase pick is detrimental to having like drone after death even be a thing. And then I think it would be better to look at like if Echo and Maestro is that big of a problem, then maybe change the interaction post death with them instead of just scrapping the whole idea.
Agreed.
Like,
agreed.
I hate this thing where like in Siege we ask for massive changes. We're like, oh, it's getting stale. We need new change. We need this and this and this. We get something that's new and we instantly go, no, we want the old stuff.
Yeah.
Because like next season it's gonna be the same shit. People are gonna say, oh, we want like Matt, why aren't you trying crazy stuff? They try crazy stuff, they're like, oh, the devs are done. Like, how do you get satisfied? Right?
I see. I can make an argument for the drone after death as far as attackers, and why that should be in the game. I can make an argument against it as well. But recently, I made a video going over my thoughts, and a couple things that I said in there was the problem with attackers having drone after death is that it, as a defender in a 1v1, it negatively affects that experience, and that is what is the best part of Siege. Those 1v1s, like, why would they mess with that? But the clip that I showed as an example, I showed an example of me in a 1v1 and all these, I think there was like 2 different drones that came at me and that were pinging me the whole time. In that clip, you hear one of my defender teammates see the attacker on camera and maybe ping them or at least call it out. So defenders have had this information. Defenders have had drone after death the entire time the game has been out. It's just camera after death. Yep. Now, attackers, you could make the argument that attackers have that as well, but it's never had the amount of impact that it has for defenders because of Valkyrie cameras, Echo cameras, static cameras, and just the general nature of a drone. In order for a drone to get somewhere, it has to make noise in order to get there, and it's very likely to get shot by defenders. So throughout the existence of Siege, we've grown accustomed to defenders in a 1v1 having information at their fingertips and their dead teammates being able to ping or make calls during that time period from the grave, by the way. But now we've given that tool to attackers in order for them to get realistically as much information as defenders have. Maybe more, though. Maybe more, depending on how many drones are alive. So that aspect of it right there is still in the air for me. And there is a realm, as I say, where I think that can exist in this game and be a good change.
Also, there's an actual minigame to this whole thing. The bulletproof with the MPs can stop drones, right?
Yes.
You have defenders dead able to affect dead drones that are moving. You have Maestro cams that can stop drones. You have the bulletproof cams that can EMP. You like electrified stuff will stop drones. Mute jammers, pests. Right? There's going to be some drones shot because the attackers, like, I think people have this idea that attackers are just going to rush in and the first guy who dies is then going to drone. Yeah. Why? Why not drone for him first? And then he frags on the drone. You shoot a drone, you shoot him, and then the next guy drones, right? But that's not how Siege works. You aren't just going to leapfrog a drone on a player and a drone on a player. Like, there's more to it than that, right?
Right.
People set up this idea of, well, Ash is just going to rush in and then she's going to drone everyone after. Well, if that becomes a meta, then people are going to be like preparing for it.
Ash players are not going to enjoy sitting on cam.
They're not going to drone after they die.
Right.
They're going to type in chat.
Yeah, that's not gonna happen. I would love to see an iteration of Drone After Death come into the game where they fix Echo and Maestro to make it to where they cannot. What I mentioned earlier as far as taking away the Sonic Blast, taking away the zapping after death, and then looking at the attackers, don't give them the extra drone that drops out of their pocket magically, and seeing what that looks like. I would like to play that.
I think we should try and get a dev on to talk about why.
Right.
Why now?
Okay.
Why not just stick with it? Why not just force it?
Oh, well, my guess is that I think this is appropriate. I think maybe they're getting good feedback now. Maybe in their minds they thought the
From
Echo and
who no one
Maestro weren't
played.
going to be. Well, I mean, yeah,
I'm
right.
kidding.
Maybe in their minds though, they thought the Echo and Maestro, game after death was a good decision and was going to go over well. I can't imagine that, but I don't know. And that brings me back, like, what are the metrics that you would look at as success? First of all, I don't think that you can get anything from this test server. I don't know.
No.
Maybe, but the things that I would like to look at, what happens to the defender versus attacker win percentage? That's probably one of the first things I would look at. What happens? Is there a way you can track how often people tab out? Can you track that? Is that is there any effect on that?
I am sure they can track how often the window gets unfocused.
Maybe.
Well, I mean, active time on drone would be one thing to track, right?
Sure.
Active time on camera versus spectating. That would be very interesting. Like, are people more engaged in the game? Because if they are, I think it's a win. And I'm willing to give up a lot for the fact that people are just there and invested while playing. There's nothing worse than people they die and they get on their phone.
Yeah. Well,
I hate it, man.
I think another important stat to look at would be percentage of rounds won in a 1v1 attacker versus defender before and after. You know what I mean? Like,
with drone count alive, right?
Yeah. All of a sudden, are attackers winning all of those 1v1s? Did it stay roughly the same? That's like important questions. How many times are defenders getting pinged in the last 30 seconds with drone after death versus without it? Like, those are like, I think that would be like an important metric to look at.
I want to see how many drones are shot per round. I think that would be a very, very good metric. Like, knowing how many drones die per round when there's drone after death versus when there isn't. Because then you can start figuring out there's going to be way more active drones in drone after death. But I also think most of them are going to get shot. And I think people are probably going to be more aggressive with their drones because they have that safety net. So there's going to be less good pre-placed drones, and they're probably going to leave their flanks. Like, how many? This was a argument that I didn't get to explain proper. I think I fucked it up on stream. But let's take Clubhouse. I have my drone in garage, and it's a 2v2, and it's the last drone that is live, right? It's in garage as a flank drone because we lost all the other ones. We have won rounds because a drone was holding a flank that we never thought was necessary. And we see one guy flanking. What if I had left with that drone and we lost the round?
Yeah.
While dead.
Yep.
Right? Like, we could have lost that round because of a decision to try and drone outside.
Sure.
So I don't think it just magically gives you a free win.
No, I wouldn't say that either.
And I think if you want to make a change like this as game developers, you have to decide that this is what we're gonna do, and then you'll get the feedback on how to do it. But I don't think you should give. I truly don't believe you should give the community the decision to just say no, thank you.
Well, okay, maybe that's a bit much, but I think that testing this big of a change in a test server is appropriate. I think here's what I think they did. I think they said, okay, drone after death. And they probably have an idea of where they could see it actually fitting into the game and what it would look like there. But they started out and saying, go crazy with it. What is the most wild form of drone after death that you can imagine? And that's what we'll test first. And that's what we saw. I don't see how it could get any more radical than that, really.
No.
And then the next generation,
they keep
the next
building
generation, they trim it down, and then eventually maybe the community gets to a point where like, all right, you guys went a little crazy and scared me there at first with the Maestro and the Echo, but now we're at a place where I think this is kind of, I can live with this.
Yeah, but that's what I really hope they do. I hope they force this idea into the game, but take feedback, of course, to adapt it so as many people are happy with it as possible. But there must be a reason that they decided to try and do this. It's such a drastic change. You don't just come up with it out of thin air and go like, oh, wouldn't it be fun?
Well, I think the reason is to reduce downtime and to try to affect the defender attacker win rate. That would be my guess.
Sure. That makes sense. I will say, I am convinced that if attacker defender win rate gets to 50%, like overall, it is going to feel insanely attacker sided. Because once you start winning with attack, it feels way more dominating. Like losing as defender feels like you're getting slammed.
Yeah. Yeah.
It has to be slightly defender sided. Has to be.
I think that you're probably right. And I will say the reason for that is because I don't know.
Well, defenders have one more win condition, right?
Exactly.
So just off the fact that defenders will win if nothing happens, defenders should have slightly higher than attacker win rate all the time. Because otherwise that will mean that the attackers win a decent amount more than the defenders when the game is played out fully. And that's what kind of scares me. If attackers get too close to 50%, it's going to feel like Favela.
Well,
Favela.
You know what the easiest solution to this is, in my opinion? I applaud them for trying to address defender win percentage, but if we just had unlimited overtime, in ranked as well as in comp,
well, I do think ranked games should be longer though.
It's solved. It doesn't matter if in overtime, if you switch attacker defender every single round and it just is win by 2 unlimited, then it's problem solved. It does not matter. Yeah, it doesn't matter. And it's not like other games don't do that. That's how Valorant works right now. Valorant ranked is unlimited overtime.
Yes, but Valorant ranked doesn't have 4 bomb sites, and
that's very true. And the rounds aren't as long either. So
Siege can really drag out.
Yes.
So
what if you did unlimited overtime in Siege, but you had to rotate every bomb site on the map before you can play the first one over again? It wasn't like where you had to play 2 or you had to play 3 and then back. You literally, if there's 4 objectives on the map, you would have to cycle through all 4 as a defender before you could come back to the first one.
I'm against the idea of not knowing how long a game can take.
I mean, okay, why?
Because a lot of people have X amount of time to play. And don't want to let... Well, if you say unlimited overtime, nothing says that there won't be at least one game a week that goes for 2 hours.
Well, there's also, in Valorant, there's also an option to draw. And that's, so I've never had a game. I've never actually drew a game.
So draw is very common in CS, for example, right? Like very common, 15-15. But I don't think you can fairly ask people to queue for a ranked game as a 5-stack and know that most games are going to be 25 minutes, but it could be 3 hours.
I mean, there's other games that do it though.
Is there?
Yeah.
Is there any game that can go to 3 hours except for StarCraft, which wouldn't?
Well, like I said, what I described is exactly how it works in Valorant right now. There's unlimited overtime. You have to win by 2. You switch attacker defender after every round in overtime, but after every 2 rounds, you do have the option of voting for a draw. And I think if 6 people vote for a draw, it's a draw.
And otherwise, it could go forever.
Otherwise, it could go forever. Yes. Now, keep in mind, a round in Valorant is what, a 20-second buy phase and then a 1 minute 40-second round.
Yeah, they're much shorter.
They are.
Even then, it seems a bit extreme to add all of that. Instead, we just make it like 7 rounds, or like set a limit for. Well, the game can never be more than an hour and 15. I think that's fair. That if you know you have X amount of time left, you know if you can play a game or not. I think that's so important for a lot of people. Like, let's say you have to go pick your kid up, or you have food at 8, or like think about how many kids would have to just quit.
Yeah,
because they have like mom and dad says you can play until 8, and now it's 7:30, and they're with their mates, and they're like, oh, I can play one more game. But they don't know if they can actually finish that or if it's going to go until like 12 at night, and then they just have to leave.
Well, let me ask you this: if you're on a 4-stack, which let's say you're in a 4-stack, you got a random with you. You go into unlimited overtime. You've been playing in unlimited overtime for 15 minutes. The teammate's been like cooperative, communicating the whole time, and then he comes on and goes, "Listen, if we don't pick draw after this one, I'm going to have to disconnect because I have to. You know, my parents are saying I have to get off."
Well, I'm a reasonable adult, so I don't really care.
Right.
But a lot of people do.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't care if I win or lose that game. That's not important to me. I just don't like the idea of the pressure that will be on so many people where they don't know if they can fairly sign up for a game.
Right.
Because I would feel bad signing up for that game knowing that I couldn't finish it.
Yeah, it is. It's a bit. It's a lot. I get you. But
if there, as long as there's a max cap and it's very like I think it's in Valorant and in CS when you queue rank it says that a game can go from 30 minutes to 60 minutes. Make sure you have the time for this, right? Like you basically like sign a little contract that you're actually up for this amount of time and commitment. Do that with Siege and I'm all in.
Yeah,
but no infinite time.
And correct me if I mean maybe I'm not gonna. I've never been confused for a stat guy, but if you have more lopsided defender win rates, it would increase the likelihood that the unlimited overtime would go longer. Like imagine playing unlimited overtime on Outback, for example. And we don't have the numbers in front of us. Most people agree that Outback was a very defender-sided map. Let's say that the defender win rate across every site on Outback was 70%. It would be very likely that unlimited overtime would go for a very long time because you would just keep trading defender rounds over and over again, right?
It would wait until the unlikely thing happens and someone messes up their massive win percent advantage.
Right. With a 50-50, if the closer you are to 50-50, the less likely your unlimited overtime would go for extremely long periods of time.
Yes, but the less earned that victory would also be. That's the thing. The more balanced it is, the less value there is in the victory. Because if you keep playing forth and back for, let's say, 2 hours, right? And you're just waiting for one team to make a mistake. At that point, you were so even that like both teams should just not have an elo change. I've played that's how it should be, right? Like if
I've played some pretty long Valorant matches, and I will say that I had a really good time in them. Like it's a pretty cool feeling. It's a pretty cool feeling to go like long time.
It's amazing, but from like a fairness perspective, you shouldn't really gain any elo from it.
Oh yeah, okay.
The longer it has gone, the closer you are to that team. Yep. You're basically even, right?
Yeah. I get what you're saying. Yeah, that makes sense.
So I guess that's the only issue is that we'd end up like giving extremely long, very enjoyable games, but you would have to like not give a lot of elo for it because people are basically the same.
What else is in the test server that they're trying
Nook
out?
Change, I hate it.
The Nook change. Did they tweak it some this time, or is it the same as the last time?
It's just proximity. So, actually, it's super complicated. From like it doesn't intuitively make sense. So the glitch effect counters all of these things, right? So if she's glitching in any way, like if she is taking damage from a goo mine, this effect won't work. Or if she's moving too fast or whatever. But all proximity based. So Grismod, Melusi, proximity alarm, a metal detector, all of those she can bypass with her gadget.
Okay.
But not the laser ones.
Okay.
And if she's in glitch state, she can't bypass any of them. The problem with this is that how are you supposed to, like, especially as a new player, how are you supposed to know this?
Yeah.
You trust the idea that you put down a Banshee or Grismod mine, when people go through it, it goes boom. You have an audio queue. Now Nook, which is going to be the new Ash main, by the way, walk straight to site. And now you're getting the blame for your entire team. Why didn't you cover this?
Unless you have a Thunderbird device there.
Oh yeah, so over here. Well,
The
now a Nook
Conan
walks
station is
in.
the new Nook counter.
Yeah, but now she walks in with 120 HP instead.
Oh my god.
I hate it. I think Nook is really good as she is now. She bypasses a ton of intel already. The fact that you can't be seen on cams is really good. I think just make her ability last a little longer, or as we talked about last time, give her a set amount of time that she can use it during a round. And you decide if you want to use it from spawn all the way to site, or if you want to use it mid round or whatever. I do not like this.
I go a little bit different direction than you as far as my potential issue with it, and I would say that where I would come from is that as a new player, I think it would make more sense to look at this operator and say, if I'm using this operator and I'm using their gadget and I'm not sprinting, then I will be able to bypass any type of trap or alarm. I'll be able to bypass some traps and alarms. You know what I mean? Like that's the problem that I could see as a new player. Like, it's okay.
It doesn't make sense you can walk through in a Rooney gate, right? Like when you walk up to that and you're like, that probably can't do that.
Yeah, that's true. But a Capcan trap, you don't actually see the laser. Like,
no.
If it was me, I would say the way that would make the most sense to the widest range of players is that if you pick Nook, you have her gadget active, then you will be able to walk through. Maybe not a Rooney. I think that does make sense. You can see the lasers there. That does not make sense that I could walk through that. But I could walk through a Capcan trap, an Elamine, a Grismot, even a Legion Goo mine. I know there's a needle, it doesn't, but like you could bypass all of that stuff.
But then I jump on defense. I pick Vigil. And now I can't walk past the Nomad? Why? Or I'm Cav and I can't tippy-toe over the gridlocks?
Well, I mean, listen. I'm not gonna try to explain this stuff through lore. I'm not
No, but I'm just trying to from
I get it. I get what you're saying.
Balance forth and back, right? We know red barrels go boom. That's gamer logic, right? If I throw a grenade, it blows certain things up. There are just things that are very intuitive. Some things look like the Goyo shield. I can have never played Siege and I can see where I want to shoot that thing. Right? It makes sense.
Well, as long as you're behind it.
Yeah, sure. Same with a mirror winner, right? But when you see those things, there's a hint of what does it do.
Right.
But even as a competent player that's played for a long time, now I throw my Elamines out and I start relying on the audio queue. Because they're in specific spots for specific reasons, right? I need people to shoot them, to twitch them. I can hear all this. But now I got my back towards this thing, and the whole argument for the what are they called? The proximity alarms, as I understood it, was that if you're a newer player, you could place them behind you and you'd get a warning if someone was flanking or doing something, right? Mm-hmm. So you didn't have to have someone else cover that. Now you have a Nook walk up and shoot, and you're like, what? Did I place my things incorrectly? And on the other hand, what if you tell me that you got an Elamine on blue stairs? And I'm like, okay, I'm not worried about that. And then all of a sudden I get shot, and it's a Nook. Now next round, we try again. Now I have to sit there and just stare at it the whole time. Then you might as well use your Elamine somewhere else. But at that point, when do I trust the gadget? Because I don't know if you have a Nook.
So let's remove the Nook tweaks from the equation and just answer this question. Only on the surface level, do you think that it's a bad idea to have an operator whose unique ability will allow them to bypass an Ella Grismont mine?
Yes.
Okay, I don't. So we're starting with different foundations. I think we pretty much agree with Nook for the most part, but I will say that I don't think it's crazy to say that there's an operator in Siege who can bypass an Ella Grismont mine by using their ability.
I think when it comes to stuff like that, it is really bad for like the trusting your utility. And I think that's a very, very important thing. Like, it's already a lot that I can be on a camera and someone can walk past my camera and shoot me when I felt like I'm sitting there to try and help the team, right? Like, I'm a Valk on site, whatever, trying to give callouts to roamers, and all of a sudden I get knifed because a Nook walked past my cameras to me, past the Grismod mine, the Melusi trap, and the proxy or proximity alarm, and I'm dead. I did everything that I could do. I had 3 traps to protect me. I had cameras. This character can walk past all of them. I don't like the idea. I think if we start having things that are like safety nets or warnings or intel, they have to be trustworthy at least to some level. And the problem I have is that there doesn't even have to be a Nook for me to be paranoid. The existence makes it bad. Because now every Elamine I ever place, I cannot trust that no one will come from there without it going boom. Whereas if I throw a grenade, I can trust that if it lands in this corner and I hear it go boom, the person there will have either died, got down, or taken damage. If the nade lands there and he doesn't die, I'll hear the scream. I'll hear the right? If he gets down, I'll get the points. Like there's a certainty to it. If the nade gets thrown there and it gets picked up by a OMI, it'll take longer for it to blow. If there's an ADS, it'll change the behavior, it'll go sap. There's always a feedback. My problem with this is that there's no feedback. Vigil running past a drone has the fuss, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then you can say that, well, if he's far away, he doesn't. But at least there's some interaction that I can do with that. The only interaction I can do with Nook is place another trap. Or barbed wire. Barbed wire is actually a really good counter.
Yeah.
But I'm not picking barbed wire only for Nook.
Yeah, I mean, I think I guess at the end of the day, I just disagree in that respect. I understand your point there. That's a solid point. That's a solid point.
You don't like an Ashe like crouch walking against the site, right? Like you don't enjoy being against that. Like it's an annoying thing to fight, right?
It's never really. I don't think that it's ever really been something that I've singled out as like a frustrating element of this game. Is an Ashe crouch walking into sight.
What about Valk then? What was the issue with Valk?
The issue with Valk is that I feel like personally that Valk takes what is already a very troublesome part of Rainbow Six Siege, and that would be the first minute and the fact that defenders get 40 seconds of full map control,
sure.
And attackers start in one of 3 locations that defenders know, and she takes that moment in time and completely I don't know, makes it way more tedious on attackers, I guess you could say, by having cameras outside. So not only do I know, okay, attackers at this very moment are in one of 3 spots, but I also can get on there and say, okay, actually, there's 3 over here and 2 over here, and they're coming this direction. That is my major issue with Valk. I just think the first minute of Siege is already tough enough on attackers, and she makes it worse.
Okay.
I think the point you're making with Nook is a good point. I just don't mind it. It's not a foundational.
I'll play a ton of Nook. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm gonna abuse the heck out of it, but I didn't mind Blackbeard.
Oh yeah, I don't think you're gonna like quit the game or anything.
No. But what I mean is, like, I don't care if she gets too strong, because I never care if something is too strong. I'll just play it. I did the same with Blackbeard. I did the same with Monty. Like, I will abuse the heck out of it. But I cannot imagine something more frustrating than you like setting up a good site and I can just walk past. There's nothing you can do. You basically have to now have a person looking at that door for the entire round until you know that there's no Nook. And that terrifies me.
Or barbed wire, or I guess at this point a Capcan trap, right?
Yeah, the Capcan trap I can melee.
Yeah, but that does make some noise, right?
Yeah, when I'm at your door.
All right, let's talk about the invite a little bit because we're running a little bit close on time. I think we got pretty much all of the test server changes and stuff talked about for the most part.
Oh, zero recharge gadget, super cool.
Oh yeah. That was definitely good. Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, I think that's it. Smoke propagation.
Yeah,
Ultra good.
good.
Boom. Then there's the death experience and the operator icon change. I'm not a fan of that. Like the new scoreboard, cool, but God, does it look awkward having the like drawn out roadmap of the match when you're in casual and there's like 3 dots. Like it just looks dumb. But I don't care. It's fine.
Invite.
Yes.
It was first. Let me say this first of all. That was a tough. Somebody made a really tough decision with making the decision to have invite under the circumstances, and in my opinion, hindsight's 2020, but it was the right decision. To my knowledge, at least at this point, we haven't heard of anybody who's gotten sick from it. It went off. It was extremely entertaining. Viewership was good. Now, obviously, there were packs involved there, but who cares? Viewership was good. The competition was good. We saw international siege for the first time in a year and almost a half. Overall, it was awesome to watch. And whoever made that decision, it could not have been easy to make. And, that's why they get paid the big bucks.
It was really good to watch. I don't think I'll ever... No, I will never back up the idea of, while there are still lockdowns, having people travel for something like that. No matter how important it is. I know. I'm just against the idea of doing that. Until there is more control over it and things aren't as meh as they were. There's too many things that could go wrong. Things went good, and thank fuck for that. Like, that's really good, because it could have gone wrong. And I don't like the idea of gambling that. But damn, was it good to see some Siege.
Yep.
And it was some really good matches. Like, it was very enjoyable. I didn't see a lot of like meta complaint from like people being upset about how the games were played out. I think people were pretty happy with like how the matches actually played out.
Well, I think
overall.
A big part of that was how much Chalet was played, and the fact that Chalet is attacker favorite at this point. I haven't seen all the stats. I don't know if it actually played out to be attacker favorite, but I know leading into Invite, Chalet was playing attacker favored. But
I think we were very quick. They were very quick to judge that. It was a very small sample size,
sure,
and they made a big part of saying like, "Oh, it's attacker favorite." Maybe
did
less
you feel
than
like it was
rounds.
played a lot though, Chalet?
It was played a good amount.
Yeah, I felt like it was played. I felt like I watched it a lot, which I'm okay with. I'm not complaining about that because it's a newer map and it was really fun to watch. Yeah. So
some upsets with some teams and some meh performances from some, and then some outstanding ones from others. The Nip Liquid game is the first time I've cheered for a team. Like, really cheered for a team. Like, really wanted a team to win. That Liquid story with Paul, that was tough.
Yeah.
God damn it, did I want them to take it?
Yeah. I did too.
And
so, what? I mean, explain the story with Paulo there.
Well, so he, if I understood it right, he is at the event, and his dad is ill and at the hospital, right? And he passes away during the event, and he has to play that while thinking about that, and also thinking about his team.
Yeah.
And trying to win. The amount of like mental strength it takes to not just say fuck it and just sit. Right?
Yeah.
Like, so much respect for that guy. That is an immensely shitty situation to be in.
For sure.
And then to still do what he did.
He was MVP, right? MVP of the entire invite.
Yeah. Like, I mean, he played insane. But At that point, he also played for a little bit more than Hammer, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, that is a tough fucking story, and that's something that's gonna like be a memory in Siege for a long time. I have so much respect for that guy.
Sure.
Normally, I don't give a shit who wins. I really couldn't care less. I just want to watch a good game. That's all. Like, I just want to watch a good game. I think the best team wins because that's how we have to look at competition. Otherwise, there's no value in the competition. If you don't agree that the ones who win are the better ones, then why are we even trying to find the best one? But that day, I was cheering for Liquid. I really was.
Yeah. I was cheering for Liquid as well, but I mean, huge props to Nip for being runners up last year. Some could say that they kind of choked in the finals last time. I mean, they won the first 2 maps and then kind of choked. You could say that or SSG won. I mean, whichever way you want to split it, but.
Yeah, it's a hard one with the choking, right? Because
it really is.
I mean, let's be fair. You might be up 2 maps, but maybe they had the better. Like maybe if you reversed the whole thing, it would have been different.
Yeah, because of the way the map picks go too. Maybe the first map was theirs.
Better team wins.
Yeah,
there's.
So, but still, to be runners up and then to keep it together and then to come back next year and win it. I mean, that takes a lot of discipline and fortitude, and congrats to them for that. As far as the production and everything, and I thought it was pulled off pretty well.
I will say it was really good for a tournament. It didn't feel like Invitational.
No. Yeah, I agree with that.
I don't mean any and it's not to be a downer or anything, but Invite is not what was there.
Right.
That was an Invite tournament with a hammer and the prize pool and all of that. It was not an Invitational. Like in terms of what they won, it's still the same. I agree with that. Like they won an Invitational.
Yeah.
They have that title. But you and I have both been to a real Invitational, and that is a different vibe, man.
For sure.
And it's not just because there's a crowd there.
Can you imagine how the crowd would have reacted in some of those games? I mean, some of those Liquid games and the way that honestly, watching the Liquid versus TSM match, and you had Bolo and Nesk just going off and going right back and forth.
But it's not just the crowd, right? Because I've been to Pro League events and I've been to Invitational, and there's a difference in like everything is different at an Invitational. It's not just because there's like Rio. There was way more people cheering than at the Invite, right? Way more. Rio, they were so loud, and this Paris Major was loud as heck as well. But Invite is such it's like the embodiment of Siege.
Yeah,
community and everything.
You don't even have to go into the arena. You can just stay out in the hallway.
Yeah,
and have fun at Invite. I mean,
and I don't know. I think it was probably easier to do it this way and then call it the Invite. I think it should have been branded as something that wasn't Invite.
Well, I'm glad it was because Nip deserves that title. And
I think they should still have the same title. But it's the same amount of teams that go there. The fight is equally as fair. But it feels wrong to call it an Invite for like the community aspect of it, not for the competitive stuff. The competitive stuff is just as fair and just as good as it would have been at an Invite. But from a community, like,
yeah, no, I get you, I do. And hopefully this February we'll be able to be back at a real proper Invite. I think we are. I mean, I know, like I said, I was traveling this weekend. I'm not saying everything's back to normal. I don't know that we'll ever, we're going to be affected by what we've gone through last year forever. Up, but yes, things are definitely heading in a direction where we're starting to feel a little bit more normal. Yeah. And I'm really hoping by February we'll be to a point where we can have a proper Invite. Because I agree with what you're saying.
I will give them, while I think it was the wrong decision to have any kind of tournament, and I think the same with the Valorant one. I think it's irresponsible to have a tournament at that time. But with what they had, I think they did a good job.
Yeah.
But it would be, it would take one person to get sick and pass
Sure.
away for it to be the biggest mistake of
catastrophe.
anyone's career.
Yep.
And that is one hell of a gamble to take.
And that's why I have so much respect for whoever made that decision, because I probably wouldn't have made it, just because exactly what you said there, dude. If this is if the buck stops with me and I'm the one making this decision and somebody dies because of this,
Yeah, but
I'm
but
never
that's
gonna be
what,
able to
like,
live with myself.
You could make the right or wrong decision there, and it could be still be out of your hands, right? Like
Yeah.
somebody could lick the door handle,
Right.
and there is nothing you could do. No amount of testing or anything could keep it from it, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. And sure, you could say, well, there could be something starting like during an event, and there would be nothing. But at least we know about this, right? Like it was a conscious decision to do. But I'm happy that nothing happened, and good job for what they had. Like the way they made everything work, and the way that it seemed from like as a viewer was impressive. It was.
Yeah, for sure. And again, congrats to Nip for winning. I think we're gonna wrap it up on that note, unless there's something else that you have that you wanted to get out.
Please play test server next season.
let's roll out a test server next season that doesn't have a matchmaking error. Because that was the most frustrating part, is that you didn't know, you were queuing and you didn't know, do I have an error and I just haven't gotten it yet, or am I just not finding a match because nobody's playing? And that uncertainty made me just feel like, okay, I'm not wasting my time with this. So let's roll out a test server next season without the matchmaking error, and that just cancels MMR after the game, so that the whole ranking aspect isn't an issue.
I will say I'm actually super excited for the season to go live.
Yeah, me too.
I'm really excited for the season to go on live build. But TS right now, I just can't be asked.
Yeah. I'm not going to waste any more time there either. But, all right. Well, thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Sorry for the long break in between episodes. Thanks for bearing with me there. I guess with that said, we will see you guys on the next one. She'll be back on an every other week rotation now that we're back on schedule. And until then, we'll see you.